Traits of a high-value man. You've seen a guy like this around. Maybe you know one, or perhaps you are one. A high-value man is someone other men respect and want to be like. He's someone who not only attracts every woman, but also knows how to treat a girl right. And no, it doesn't start and end with money. Money alone does not qualify a man to be of high value. There are other qualities such a man must possess. So then, what are the traits that make a high-value man different from the rest? Let's find out.
Those are kind of things in a health and social way. The other thing that the question was, high value man. Number two, how is he looking at sex and sexuality? So, what I will tell you for sex and sexuality, whether it's for myself or what I've discussed in workshops with high value men, there have been some, and you can work out the list of what the 10 criteria for of a high value man. Part of what they're looking at is people fall into two ranges. Men fall into two ranges. I can say men fall into two spaces for me. Fun and special. Fun, we're just having fun. And I don't even talk to you about my work stuff and what I do and all of that, and let's go to Six Flags, let's go to the beach, let's do some fun stuff, let's have even a fun sexual time, fun, safe sexual time. Generally that person is a different requirement for attractiveness. I'm not saying I don't like ugly people because that doesn't sound completely right, but, I'm shooting the shot at good looking for the fun people, because we're going to have fun. And they've identified, whether it's online or we're talking or flirting or stuff like that, that they are a fun person. So we're going to have some fun. Then, potentials and specials, it's like, I could see I do a relationship with this one. Maybe I can marry that one. Is this one responsible and working and they're educated and they have a vision for themselves and they have maybe they don't quite terminology it the same way I do about bricks, but they're kind of doing some of the same things for whatever their life goals and stuff are, and they're able to discuss their life goals, which generally is what gets you moved on to the specialist. Fun people, glitter just pops out of their heads and they want to go dancing and know where a new club is at and that food was so good and let's have some wild sex for 6 hours and I'll see you next week. That's what fun people are. Special people say, well, I have broken down to my 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals and what that feels like for me as accomplishments, what that looks like as accomplishments, what that looks like is step by step by step by step. And you go, okay, this is special. This is somebody. When I'm looking at a long-term person in that way, one of the things that we were doing a workshop a few months ago when this came up, and I said, one of the things I have to consider is that because of the books and the TV show and the videos and other stuff and real estate and stuff, and I even have some artwork and stuff, I have to consider in a partner leaving stuff to them and them having enough wherewithal to manage money. Are you good at managing not just basic money budget, singular person budget, but are you good at managing large sums of money? Like one of the things that my mother encouraged was that I learn what she was doing with large sums of money in her business and stuff like that. This is the financial planner, and this is the financial manager, and this is what I'm doing with multiple real estate properties, and this is how I'm thinking about it, and this is what I'm learning and stuff, so that she was preparing me, should anything happen to her or about her eventual death, that I would understand those things. Even in some class I had shared that East Stroudsburg, then I picked out a house and bought a house up in the mountains above East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. And when I was in school in Buffalo, one time I took the bus from University of Buffalo, or Buffalo itself, down to East Stroudsburg. I get off the bus in East Stroudsburg. Actually, you have to take it to Scranton, and then you take another short bus to East Stroudsburg. So I get there, and it's like 8 a.m. My mother is waiting there in the car and stuff like that. And so I get in the car, I'm like, because you had to wait for like an hour or two in Scranton for the short bus, really, or the local bus to take you the last 50, 75, 100 miles. So I was tired, and my mother, so she drives from one side of East Stroudsburg to a real estate academy. She's like, okay, your class begins at 9. And I'm like, what, this is my spring break, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, I signed you up for real estate classes it's the realtor classes, but you need to understand real estate as if you were buying or selling it because of what I'm doing with real estate. Kicked me out of the car, and for 5 days, Monday through Friday of my spring break, I went to the real estate academy and learned about real estate because that's how serious it was. And a couple of years after that, when I had finished school and moved to New York City and got back to New York City, I got my first, big job, making $46,000 a year, 26 years old. Ooh, I was excited. And the following year comes time to do taxes, W-2, W-4. And so, I'm telling you, my mother had actually started a little tax business when she'd been working full-time before starting her businesses. And so she knew all about taxes and stuff like that. She said, H&R Block. And I said, okay. So I found it. And I said, they have this tax preparer's class. She said, take the tax preparer's class. I was like, what? I said, but it's like Saturday morning at like 9 a.m. And she was like, the same thing that you learned from the real estate thing, even though you're not a realtor, but you still have the knowledge. So signed up, $200, which is actually tax deductible. Took the tax preparer's class every Saturday after working 5 days a week, 40, 50, 60 hours. And I did it was an 8-week class. Learned everything about taxes, particularly finally got to week 7 where I learned about business taxes because that's what it takes to publish books, to produce a television show, to monetize a television show, videos, blogs, books, accounting, all that kind of stuff. And to control it in a tax responsible way. Then a couple of years later, working at a nonprofit, they're like, hey, we're trying to help some of the clients do their taxes. So we have an agreement with the IRS. Does anybody know how to do it or interested in doing it? And we need a handful of people. I was able to raise my hand. The IRS gave me another tax preparer's training, so I'm certified by the IRS to prepare taxes. And then I got a little bit of experience because with the H&R Block thing, I didn't do anybody's taxes. I just learned about taxes. And what I would do with my own taxes, because I enjoy it so much, is prepare them on Excel spreadsheets and then take them into the tax office. And then I did the IRS tax preparer stuff. Building knowledge. As a high-value person, coming from high-value parents, I look at, in a special person, in a long-term relationship person, what do you know to manage my millions? Because if I'm with you and we're secure and we're together and you're my it, I have already prepared legally for my it stuff to transfer to you. I don't want you to fuck it up, basically, because I look at these books, the television show, the videos, that I will have maybe another 50 years to cultivate this into lasting 125 years, so that my descendants, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren can have some level of prosperity from this, from the books, from the royalties, from the videos, from the monetization, from the television show, from all of that. I'm looking at some Don Peebles stuff. I'm looking at some Robert Smith stuff. Even though Oprah doesn't have any children, she's looking at it she has nieces and nephews, and then all of her African young women from her leadership academy that, what is legacying? Generational. So that's what I'm looking at, a special person. I'm looking for the ability, perhaps the already present knowledge, or the capability to learn you gotta be some fertile ground there to learn about legacy and generational wealth and how we do that, how the Hiltons do that, and how, even if we talk about Black people, McKissick's do it, and how Don Peebles is doing, looking for his children, and how Johnson & Johnson, or Johnson from Ebony, how he's doing, how Jay-Z is thinking about stuff. That's how I'm thinking about. Now, my fun person, I'm not having a discussion with. I will tell you that I've had several fun people who've been a lot of fun, and we've done lots of fun things. Most of them unclothed. But that fun person, I'm not having a generational wealth discussion with. Now, a special potential person, yeah, I'm watching. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Because I'm interviewing you for the position of my spouse, of my partner. I don't necessarily have an interest in being legally married because I know that there are better trusts, legal codicils, transference than actually marriage for stuff, though I advocate everybody should be able to get married, have the legal choice to get married. But that's what I'm looking for in a special person. I'm looking at, are you ready to shepherd generational wealth? And then in there, I'm looking at, what does that look like in parenting or philanthropy? What does that look? What do you think of it? How do you see yourself? How do you see yourself parenting? Do you see yourself adopting, foster care, surrogacy? You got some kids already. What's going on there? And how are you looking at the future? That's what high value men are looking for. People think that men like me, who are educated, who are particularly minorities, who maybe have, as my mentor Colleen Hatcher Polite used to say, she said when she first met me when I was an undergraduate, University of Buffalo, and I was a freshman, and you could only be a junior to get into her class, and you had to do this whole reading audition thing of your writing, and I was able to get in as a freshman just as I became a sophomore. She said, from seeing you and the way that you acted and your manners, I could tell that you came from and had and will always have $1 extra. So I'm looking for somebody who can handle $1 extra. So that means that there are certain things that I look at that mean that you can't. Now, that might be in the context of, I just wrote a thing and got some responses back about safe sex. So if you're talking about, depends, barebacks, I don't know. Someone said in their HOA, we were in a workshop, and their HOA says, well, I don't know. I've done lots of stuff. That's a cross off my, I don't know you. Or there's the, a very shallow level that will not include sex that I can know you at. Because you, one, are not thinking about your own health brick. And two, if it's barebacking, depends, or raw, and here I'll put in parentheses, high value men think about your sexual practices and they listen to them, fun or special. Well, what have you done? I know now it's called your body count. They're listening. They're listening to your body count. So you might have to be truthful, okay, but you should be able to explain it as you are responsible in your sexuality. Your sexuality shouldn't be something that people, oh damn, and I can see the video too? That's a lot. Though I often surmise that porn stars, when they're, it's a very short lifespan, particularly for a gay porn star, male gay porn star, they must end up with some sugar daddy, high-value man somewhere, because I've never seen them work at Starbucks or anything like that. So, and I know that they don't become like, big movie producers. So there's got to be something in between there that's their videos are almost an audition or their resume for being a trophy husband or kept in some way. Where is Jeff Stryker? Okay, so that's something that a high-value man is considering in his balancing of fun versus special, potential long-term relationship. How that person manages money, what their future is, how they take care of children, what their safe sex practices are, and something that we have to consider, particularly CDC has released, and has been for years now, that CDC has projected that because of the high infection rates from HIV, that 50% of all Black and Latino men will end their lives HIV positive. And that is such an unattended to emergency that I think is being obscured by, one, the possibility of PrEP, and using that being positive and undetectable, because the assumption is, oh, well, if I get HIV, it's okay, I just take a pill and I'll be fine. And people 27 years plus are living. But that's not the truth for everybody. In places like North Carolina, in Charlotte, and I was my family, I have family in Charlotte, that the life expectancy for black people with the healthcare system, because what really, really matters is your healthcare system and your awareness of when you're HIV positive, or when you've been infected, is 5 years. So, for some places in the world, for some places in the United States, it's 5 years. And for other places, it's 27 years. But those 27 years are enhanced by healthcare, money, what race you are. And so there's this disparity that's not discussed with PrEP, because marketing, you're going to be okay. That's marketing. Marketing and propaganda says you're going to be okay. Now I'm not going to tell us about the details. So high value men are all about your details. They're all about you. I'm all about your details. I tell people as kind of a semi-joke that I can tell your FICO score when I first meet a man, like in the first 5 minutes. Because there are certain things that people present. They present their education, they present their socioeconomic level, they present their history, they present some of their boundaries, they present some of their risk tolerance or risk management, they present lots of things. Smokers, and if you, as I've worked at several agencies, constantly get all this information from the Department of Health, Department of Labor, the CDC. Smokers are 5 times more likely to have STIs. And I'm just talking about HIV. I'm talking about syphilis, chlamydia, gonorrhea, HPV, hepatitis, mono, herpes. There's a lot of stuff out there. So PrEP is just one plastic bag in a shopping center. So that's something that a high-value man is looking at within your relationship sexual history to whether or not you're fun or special. And that high-value man may protect himself with PrEP. He may protect himself with condoms. He may protect himself with nothing. He may, if he's topping, do that with fun people, fun bottoms, but with that special person, he's not expecting what the fun bottom will do. He wants to know about your sexual history that has safe sex involved in it. And that becomes problematic when we look at LGBTSGL high value, because there's a time period, ultimately, of when LGBTSGL people have fun. And 50% of them were black and Latino, and about 30% who are white, and it's lower for Asians, and it has to do, we've done this special before, and I'll leave a link under this show. It has to do with who your, think of it like a merry-go-round, cohorts are of sexual history. So Bob and John and Steve and Tom, and they're all in the same 10 circle. Racially, black, Latino, Asian, Asians and whites expand more into different cultures and ethnicities. So instead of just being 10 people in the black community, 10 black guys, that even though they may not all know each other, they're all in the same neighborhood or sexual neighborhood. Same thing for Latino guys. Therefore, if half of them are HIV positive, the other half who are unpositive are eventually going to have sex with people who are positive, and then that gets into your safe sex discussions for blacks and Latinos. Whites tend to mix interculturally. It has something to do with privilege, it has to do with entitlement. They might have a black lover, or a Latino lover, or a white lover. So they have a higher probability group. So there's a lower chance of infection because of that. Same thing for Asians. Okay, so now you see high value. I know all those kinds of details. So 3, family. Your family becomes a high value man's responsibility. So he's considering whether or not that group is something he's willing to take on. And I tell people that, having learned from my own family and my own parents becoming terminal and dying and their health issues, it's about $125,000 per parent. in lost work time, in actual cash outlay, in plane tickets I had to pay for, in food and medication and all in clothing and cabs and cars and car repairs and all the things that you have to do to support people, particularly when you're the high value, high earning person in the smaller or larger family, or I was an only child. It cost me about $125,000 over several years to literally kind of pay for all of the ancillary costs around my parents, my mother first, or my mother second, being terminal. All of that. So a high value man, I'm looking at when I look at partners, when I look at that special group, I'm looking at, well, how are your parents doing? How many brothers and sisters do you have? Oh, okay. You know, because I'm an only child, so that's why so much of it fell onto me. Whose responsibility would that be? Who would that person, would that parent, would that ill parent, would they need to move in with us because maybe it's no longer safe or viable for them to be alone? So then that means that changes the dynamic of, okay, we have children, so now we need a bigger space. So maybe we can't be in an apartment, maybe we need to be in a house. Okay, so we need these things to be able to support what may happen in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. High value men are thinking about that. They're thinking about the long-term plan of what this looks like, what your parents being ill looks like. How many parents do you have? Oh, your grandparents are still alive too. And you're an only child. That means a lot of the burden of responsibility is going to fall on you. Or you have a sister, but your sister lives in Guam. Oh, she ain't coming for the doctor's appointments, twice a week, or if there's heart surgery and stuff like that, there's only so much that she might be able to facilitate back and forth. So that's something. Family. Or do you have kids? So children become a special context because the question always becomes age. How old is a child within a relationship that you're meeting, a stepchild, and that you may not have, as a step parent, the same rights and privileges over that child that the biological parents have. And then, you as a step parent, high value step parent, to somebody, okay, you love each other, but that person and that child are still connected to, whether you're a man or a woman, the other father, the other mother. So, there's now 3 of you, 3 adults in this. And some of the examples that have come up and we talked about in workshops is what if you want to go on a trip and a person has a 10-year-old child that lives with them. So now you can't be spontaneous, and you also need the other parent's legal permission and sign off to go on the trip. So the child says, the other parent says, nah, I don't want them going to Italy for 3 weeks during the school year. It could be legitimate or it could be crazy. So do we go? Do we not go? We can't go because of this. So this is something that we have to consider. We all have to consider. I consider. Because high value, part of what that might be, is a level of freedom. And you want to be free with your spouse, with your partner. Hey, let's go, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to Australia. So met somebody from Australia. And she manages real estate, and she was like, hey, you got to come down here, And I was like, well, what about next year? And she's like, yeah, next year would be great. And I was like, no, I'm not kidding. I will be there. No, when's the best time? He says, oh, the best time is in March. It's like our spring, summer. And I was like, okay. She says, you don't want to come when it's too hot because it's just horribly hot and everybody leaves and stays inside. But, in an hour like February, March, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And I could work out my break then, stuff like that. So, but what if I'm with somebody and they've got a child that can't stay or can't go, and, how do we manage that? That's something you have to consider in high value. Family, your family, their other family, their children, and the people connected to those children. Then you have to consider wanting to have children. So how are we doing this? I had mentioned before in another in a workshop, in an episode, that I'd gone to a surrogacy meeting, seminar, ultimately. Doctor was there, nurse was there, all the lawyers were there, everybody was there. We were basically there, and the dangerous part was if you brought your checkbook. Some of the couples, some of the male couples and some of the male individuals brought their checkbooks. So I can tell you what it approximately costs is I'm sure you could do it for the cheap. But different surrogacy agencies, picking from a catalog, meeting a surrogate, goes for about $50,000 to $90,000 per child. But there's a sale that if you do two children or twins, it's like $140,000. So it's a range between about $50,000 to $140,000. So how are we doing that? Who's paying for that? How long does it take to pull that money together? And then the 18 years after that, or the trials of getting someone pregnant, insemination, jar, turkey baster, all those kinds of things, a doctor. But it could take a while. It takes several stages and procedures. What if it's happening out of the country? So that we've got to fly back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that has to be considered in child production. And it also has to be considered, okay, now where are we going to live? And did the other person adopt? Do we have to get married so that we are both legally parents to this child? And what if we don't want to get married? Or what if one of us doesn't particularly care for the institution of marriage? What does that mean? All of those things start coming up. That's what it is. But these are responsible things, and a lot of high value is taking responsibility for bigger and more things.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. Make some progress, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb. I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I will get back up. Cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.